Gosh darn it. Welcome everybody to the show. Join This is Counterclipping show number 198 for November 18th, 2024. Let me get the chat going here. I am clearly not prepared for this. So we got a whole lot to talk about tonight. Our topic is getting a return on your wargame investment. We'll kind of fish through that, but there's so much news and other things to talk about that I'm not sure how much time we are going to really be able to spend on that. So that's why I picked a pretty light-duty topic. But I would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Well, we don't mean investment in this sense, Winterson. So, because this is foolish. If anybody, there's a stock market if you want to invest. Your personal investment. I'm not sure what just happened. Anyway, so tonight we are clipping Goose Green from the Gamers and Multiman Publishing, designed by Carl Fung, and part of the Tactical Combat series, the latest in that series. In fact, we are drinking Macallan 12. This is the regular 12-year Macallan. Someone was kind enough to gift this to me, so thank you very much. You know who you are. So, it is one of my favorites, and I don't buy it for myself because I think it's too expensive, frankly. So, in any case, let's see what we got going on here tonight. Yeah, Stigler, you and my mother. So, in any case, we have like a whole bunch of news and stuff like that to talk about, but let's get the obvious stuff out of the way first. So, everybody, once again, thanks for coming out. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. If you're on Twitch, and there's usually one or two people on Twitch, go ahead and follow over there. You cannot subscribe. And there's a whole bunch of links to support the show and the channel in the video description. So big shout out in particular to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair, without whose support and encouragement we would not be able to keep doing this, and to our good friends at Noble Knight Games, who are the official sponsor of the Counterclipping show and from whom we will hear in a bit. I'll also mention, and I'll probably mention it again, that one of Noble Knight's major annual sales is on right now. There are over 100,000 items that are discounted. So now would be a good time to make your Noble Knight purchases. And there is an affiliate link in the video description. And if you use that affiliate link, just click through the link, get to Noble Knight's website and buy stuff. It's not more complicated than that. I will get a little kickback in the form of store credit, and we will eventually have a new campaign. I am not prepared to announce a new campaign this evening. So this is 100% in character for my mother, actually. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot, and we'll talk about the major thing that occurred this week in a minute here. But we lost Mark Ruggiero this week. This was not unexpected, but it is not easier to deal with because we expected it, right? Mark was a mainstay of the wargaming hobby and community. He will be missed, but as I think was intimated in the memorial service that was held today for Mark is not really gone. He will be with us as long as we remember him, and Mark will be remembered by wargamers for a very, very, very long time. So anybody that was lucky enough to be in the service, thank you for doing that. And thanks to Mark's brother, Ron, who had some words to say that were really good, and you could tell how difficult that was for Ron. So our thoughts are with the family and Mark's, close personal acquaintances. And Mark was an important person to a lot of people, not even just in wargaming. So we are drinking our Macallan tonight in tribute to Mark Ruggiero. And this was what, people from a lot of different walks of, sectors of society, let's put it that way. Not just, wargamers. That was mentioned, of course, because that was very important to Mark. But, there were a lot of other people that were touched by Mark Ruggiero as well. And he will be long remembered by this community. That was not like an official statement from me or anything, but you can rest assured that while a number of tributes to Mark have already occurred, deservedly so. You have not seen the last of them. So some things are in the works to help honor Mark and to help, folks remember him down the line. So anyway, what else do we got? Big downer news. I heard it on Saturday. I think it was Saturday when I was at SDHistCon. We'll talk about that too, of course. And it took minutes for the news to kind of circulate through the room, and the seminar I was in was supposed to be about something else, and a huge chunk of it turned into a tribute to Mark Ruggiero and memories of Mark, because a lot of people knew Mark. And of course, this is West Coast, and Mark was West Coast and all of that. So lots of folks who knew Mark were there. All right, so before we get further, let's say hello to Aaron Dennis, Alistair Logie, Chad Kennedy, Charles Latorra, David Zell, Grunyard, Rich, Joe Hammond, John Longshore is in the house, Jonathan Dyer, Mark McNair, Michael Evanzini, Neil Badke, Stacking Limit, Stigler is here, Stuka Joe, welcome back to the show, Thomas Blessing, Tim Greenhoff, Vicky, welcome back, Vince Ree, William Bird. Looks like maybe this isn't working particularly well right now, because there's 143 people here, and I only have a list of like 20 in the chat. So I apologize to the many people that I have clearly missed about that. So DJ Flippy's here, Panzer Division Lair is here, Ed Holtzman is here, Midi Doctors is here, Royce is here. I'm not sure who I read off already. David Zell is here. Phil Hatfield, Phil, thanks for stopping by. Michael Simon Manders, the legend himself, is of course in the house. Not shocking at all. Joe Menton, Board Gaming Geezer, B. Atkins, Garrison Van, Rob Johnson. If I'm repeating anybody, I apologize for that too. So thanks everybody for coming out. I do appreciate that. All right, so additional news. I've already mentioned Noble Knight's, one of Noble Knight's big annual sales. They have kind of a lot of sales, to be honest, but it's worth hopping over to Noble Knight's website and checking that out right now. So that would be, well, maybe not right now, right? Maybe right after the show. Let me put it that way. Or you can keep listening to me yap and while you shop on Noble Knight's website. I don't, as I mentioned, have a new campaign to announce this week, but I will do that next week. I do have some things in mind. I have not yet made a final decision, and I didn't. I am aware of this, and yes, there is. However, it requires me to go in and make modifications to the OBS mod, which I cannot do on the air. So, in any case, there we go. Swords and Bayonets has just gone to the printer. And on this topic, and news related, I believe you can expect a GMT update this week. So be sure to check that out. And I'll have something to say about that a little bit later as well. So, Nature's Whisper, Vermont Strolls. Thanks for stopping by. What else do we have? We got that. We have, this is show number 198. Show number 200 is coming up. There will be giveaway, possibly plural, for show number 200. I'm thinking there might be more than one, to be completely honest. Chuck Turner, thanks for stopping by. Chuck, I haven't seen you in a bit. I'm not sure I saw you at Origins, actually, which would be unfortunate, but there we go. We'll be there this year. So, and then we got to talk about SDHistCon. So this will probably take a while. I got quite a few pictures, but I didn't get as many pictures as some people did. I did get some video too. And I'll probably do like a show recap that contains some of the things I'm going to say tonight, as well as, showing the rather small amount of video clips that I took. But anyway, let me pull this up. Let me put, let's see where we're at here. I think, we want that. And we want that. All right, so pictures from SDHistCon. It is held in San Diego. This is my ugly puss being crabby on the airplane because I despise air travel. The flight out was not that bad. There was about an hour layover in Charlotte to get out there, and that was just about enough time to get to the correct, check the outgoing flight, get to the correct terminal, and then sit for half an hour or so. Maybe I grabbed something to eat too. I'm not sure. The flight back was a red-eye flight. It was fucking miserable, and I strongly encourage people to not do that. I should have known better than to not do that. I could have handled being up for 35 hours when I was 20 or frankly even 30 or maybe even 40, but I can't now. So we won't be doing red-eye flights home next time. And I do think there will be a next time. Good call, Charles Atora. I didn't look at the details on this. OSG, NapoleonGames.com, is having their sale right now as well. Hollandspiel is also having their Hollandaise sale right now. So as usual for this time of year, there's a whole lot of sales happening and a finite amount of money to go around. So, Thomas Blessing, I see you went as well. Awesome. There were people there that I didn't know were there. I'll talk about this when we get through the pictures. Until after I was gone or they were gone or both. So, yeah, I'm let the young people fly in the middle of the night. No, it sucked. I got back to Charlotte at like 5 in the morning or some bullshit like that, and there was like a 4-hour, 5-hour layover there, and then the flight home was delayed due to fog, so I didn't get home. I left for the airport at about 7 p.m. On Sunday, and I didn't get home, and I had a day of gaming too, right? I did stuff, which is cool, because a lot of times I don't get to do stuff, but I did stuff, and we'll talk about those things as I get to the pictures. But I didn't get home until like noon on Monday. It sucked, and I took Monday off, and one of the best decisions of the entire trip planning thing was me deciding to not do live shows last week, I should say. Because at 8 p.m. on Monday, I was still friggin' delirious. And I felt like trash on Tuesday as well. So we will not be doing that. So apparently Worthington's got a sale going now too. I also haven't checked that out. But between Noble Knight, Worthington, OSG, and Hollandspiel, a lot of stuff is on sale. So now's a good time to buy things, especially if you're going to give them away as gifts for Christmas. So there you go. Yeah, I couldn't. I might have dozed off for 20 minutes on the plane. That was all I could do, to be honest. And I slept like kind of not great, honestly, while I was out there too. Sleeping in strange beds with terrible flat-ass pillows, and it's a very unpleasant scenario. I stayed at the Best Western, which was about a 15-minute walk from the event site. The event itself is held at the SES, I think it's SES or SAS, Portuguese Community Center. It's a nice facility. Other than the fact that the lighting in the actual game room was horrendous. The acoustics were not great. I'm really loud, okay? So relatively few people had a hard time hearing me, but lots of folks are more soft-spoken than me, and I couldn't hear them at all. So that was, even if they were sitting right next to me. So that was a problem. Acoustics were a problem. My advice is bring some kind of battery-powered light, because there's really not very many outlets in that room either. There is almost the whole thing is in this one big room, okay? And I may have gotten a picture of that one big room, but there is one side room that has better lighting, but it's all just because of daylight, and when the sun goes down, which happened at like 6 o'clock, then you couldn't see a thing there either. So the flight to Charlotte was like an hour and 45 minutes. The flight between Charlotte and San Diego was about 4.5 hours, something like that. It wasn't that long. And in fact, all the planes on the way out arrived early for reasons I don't understand. I'm not sure. We had tailwinds or something like that. So, all right. So pictures. So on Thursday night, I flew out on Thursday and got there in time to check into the hotel and chill for an hour or two. And then there was like a meet and greet mixer type of thing at this microbrewery down literally on the water. This is from the big back patio of the Epping Brewery, or Epping Brewing Company. And I'll actually have a list of local restaurants and give you my commentary on that too. And as you can see, it's a very nautical district of the city. I assume that there are plenty of naval personnel and other seafarers in this part of town at all times, because there is literally a liquor store on every single corner. Sometimes two, amazingly enough. So, yeah, the guy with wasn't that Mark Miklos, actually? Somebody had like a headlamp. That was a good idea. You can get like little folding battery powered lamps. I would just do that. I haven't checked this either. Well, Osprey might be having a sale as well. Blue Panther's having a sale. Somebody said something about Revolution Games as well. So lots of sales going on right now. In any case, Osprey sale is 30% off. I'm not sure there's anything I want from Osprey that I don't already have, to be honest. On the this, I feel like this as well, Jonathan Dyer, because I don't have this much money to spend, especially after getting out from what was not an incredibly inexpensive trip. But I'll talk about that too, because this is not the most expensive convention I go to. Even with the travel, having to fly and the hotel and all that stuff, it is not the most expensive convention I go to. All right, so this is Friday morning, and this is officially the convention is kicked off on Friday morning. What you're looking at here in a more or less great shot, actually, even though the lighting was bad, and I had to literally get my face like this far from the map to see the hex numbers. This is Mark Herman's Army of the Potomac. This is the follow-up to Rebel Fury in the Civil War Heritage series. And unlike Rebel Fury, which is like separate map campaign, battle campaigns, whatever we're calling them, Army of the Potomac, you can actually link all the maps and play out an entire campaign on a contiguous set of maps, which will take a while, but you could easily get it done in a weekend, if not a day, if you are already familiar with the rules. So I did get to play this with Mark. It is outstanding. I liked it a ton. I have not played this system since the original Gettysburg in C3I, and I like this a lot better because it feels more operational. Waterloo was like that too. Just a style choice that I personally appreciated. There you go. Charles Latoro, were you there? If not, you should have been. So, this is probably true. Yeah, everybody's money's going to be blown on Black Friday. We tend to not go shopping on Black Friday because why? I will stay home and shop on Amazon and let them do the work for me. All right. So what we have here is the Rebel Fury. I don't know if tournament is the right word. I suspect not. But there were, at various times, about 4 games of Rebel Fury taking place. And you can see Mark teaching people how to play here as well. There were about 4 games of Rebel Fury running a decent amount of the convention, too, in addition to the giant 3-table taking up Army of the Potomac. Here is, let's see if I can see him. If Mark Miklos is in this shot, I can't find him. He might be behind someone. This is the Battles of the American Revolution series. Mark Miklos, who arrived in full revolutionary garb at one point, was running this the entire time. This was a very well-attended event, and Mark takes it very seriously. And this was refreshing, and I did get to talk to Mark as well. This is Hegemony. I would 100% have played this had this not been full by the time I actually looked at the event list. I've got this game. It's got Euro mechanics more or less. But it is really a simulation game, and it's an economy simulator. I find this absolutely fascinating. I did not get on this original Kickstarter, but I did late pledge it, and I've got it and the expansions, and it looks awesome. And, not a war game, but, I will occasionally buy. I've got about 4, maybe 5 big, heavy Euro games in this general category. This looks very interesting. I saw people playing it at WBC as well. And actually, I think I saw some people playing it at Origins. But I would definitely want to play this. All right, here is... I ended up with a cold when I got back. My first, of course, leap of fear was, oh fuck, it's COVID again. But at this point, I am an expert on how I react to COVID, and I determined within a couple of hours that it was just a cold and not COVID, but my throat's still a little rough, so if my voice gives out tonight, that will be why. All right, so Justigard was at SDHistCon as well, and this is his game Seljuk, which will be coming out very soon from GMT. I believe this to be the near final version of the map, but these aren't mounted components or anything like that, so some people were enjoying this. Aaron Danis says, the Rebel Fury combat system is wonky. It's hard to look at a combat, add up with the modifiers, and relate that to a reasonably predictable... I don't know about that, actually. I didn't actually feel like that was the case. It did, however, I think once you've played a couple of games of it, I think this issue will go away. Let me put it that way, because I made, frankly, this same error in overcommitting to certain things. But I think once you get the hang of the system, I think this is going to be much, much less of a problem. John C. from the sunny Philippines, thanks for stopping by. All right, so and I got to say hello to Justin. We had lunch, and I'll talk about lunch at on the lunch list. Here we have, this is Roger and another gentleman. Roger is the Roger of Revolution Games, showing off their upcoming Blind Swords project, Gettysburg the First Day, which is designed by Steve Carey, who was there also and is not in this picture. But Steve is a great guy and was happy to meet him, as well as Richard Hamblin, who also was there from Revolution. And they're in California, too. So I'm not sure. Why there are so many wargame publishers in California. Let me put it that way. In any case, Thomas Blessing says, you think everybody got a sore? Yeah, no, that's totally true. No, I got an actual cold. I got like some sinus things going on as well. I'm on Sudafed and Mucinex right now. So I don't feel like bad enough to miss work today. I did last Wednesday, but or at least I put in a partial day, I should say. But it's just a cold. And my wife's got it now, too, and it's just a cold. So she's got it worse than I do. All right. This is Molly House, I think. The picture is a bit blurry, so it's hard to say. But I think this is Molly House, which is from Whirligig Games, I believe. I don't know a whole lot about this. So, very nice. Perfidious Albion is playing Ted Racer's Clash of Giants out of Volume 1. Am I right about that? Clash of Giants 1. So no, explicitly no. I think everyone at that table did ask this, and the answer is no. It is not intended to be combined with Longstreet Attacks. But it is the first day, and it will replace the Devil's to Pay, which, from what Steve was saying, is a little more dissimilar from the rest of the Blind Swords games than I thought it was. So I feel less bad about not having it now, because I'm buying all the Blind Swords games. They've got a whole bunch of really interesting battles that not a lot of people have done games on. Let me put it that way. So John C. confirms that the Meandering Mike, who of course knows, he probably has 11 copies. And John C. says that does look like Molly House, and it is a Cole Whirly game from Whirligig, I believe, which is, Cole does not publish everything through his own company, but I think he has done a number of things now. All right, this is, I don't know, but it's Central America. It's something to do with Central America. And this could be a coin thing, judging from the components, but I wouldn't necessarily make that assumption. I thought there was a title on the map, and maybe there is, but somebody's arm is in the way, and it's probably not mine. But in any case, this looked interesting as well. Yeah, so this is exactly what Steve said, that Herman was kind of trying to work out some of the ideas behind Black Swan in a smaller game. And that is, the result of that was the Devil's to Pay. So, the Banana Wars. Jason W. says, this is Fruit by Dan Bullock. Awesome. So thank you for that. I am also, Perfidious Albion, both excited and highly interested in this game from Compass. You may recall that Mons the Mad Minute was on GMT's P500, and it wasn't doing well, so it went off the P500, and it got picked up within a matter of days by Compass. So, because it's World War I, and Bill is in charge. So, all right, this is Painkillers. I don't know what this is about. What this kind of looks like to me, and I'm going strictly by just the layout here, it looks a little bit like Prelude to Rebellion and Prelude to Revolution by Marco Petre and or Mike Wilner from Compass, but I am reasonably certain that it is not connected to those things. Beyond that, I can't tell you what it's about, other than to tell you my photography skills are dreadful. This is Absolved from All Allegiances, and I believe this is a game about the American Revolution, and I'm not sure where this is coming from, but it looks, I guess they did set themselves up for this, didn't they? So, or the Banana Wars. I think there might be a game. There are at least one or two other games on that topic. One of which may have appeared in S&T, and it might have been called the Banana Wars. So, all right, here's Churchill. There were a number of games of this on various tables as well. This was very popular, and I like Churchill a ton, personally. So, well, assume that, Vince, I assume you're talking about this map. I would take this as not final graphics. I could be wrong about that, but I would assume that. This is definitely final graphics, because this is the actual published game of Churchill, which is outstanding, and you should play it. It's also one of the relatively uncommon games that are set up and intended to be played with 3 players. Triumph and Tragedy is another one, which is also a very good game, by the way. Otherwise, 3 is kind of an odd duck number that is kind of hard to arrange a game around. A little easier with Wargames, actually, because you can just, if the game's big enough, you can just split one of the sides, and then somebody didn't get a teammate, but you can still play, right? All right. This is... so I played with Mark for, I think, 3 or 4 hours, and then some other people came in and kind of took over, and this is the situation after those folks had left to do other things. So I was kind of doggedly trying to run Mark down. I was playing the Union, Mark played the Confederates, and he got a little... He widened up the gap considerably against the other folks. So I believe we're a father and son, which is pretty cool. So... here is Undaunted Battle of Britain getting played. That is not David Thompson. The folks from Nuts Publishing were there. At least Florent and I think 1 or 2 other people were there. And they were running some demos of a couple of things. A couple of the things I signed up to do didn't actually occur, by the way. And We Are Coming Nineveh was one of those things. But you will notice that they've got their book, Euro Wargames, which is maybe not what you think it is. It is a book about the wargaming scene in Europe. And it sounds very interesting, and I believe it will be going on Kickstarter pretty soon. So that is one to look for. I will pick that up. And then Diluvium, I have no idea. Fitna has been around for a while. Stalingrad Roads I have, and I am fairly impressed with it. And of course, We Are Coming Nineveh. Everybody speaks glowingly of it that has played it, as far as I know. Randy Maudlin. Oh, there's another good call, John C. Another good 3-player game designed to be 3 players is Compass's Brotherhood and Unity, which is excellent. I should mention that. Randy Maudlin likes Versailles 1919 better than Churchill. I can totally see that. I like Versailles 1919 as well, but I like Churchill better, actually. Yeah, that's minimum 3 players, though, and I have not played Britannia, which is another one of those things I should probably do. However, I kind of suspect that Britannia is probably not awesome, or at least at its best, with 3 players. I suspect 4... might be a practical minimum. So I would throw that, again, unplayed, based on what I know of it, kind of in a multiplayer category, along with other Avalon Hill classics, such as Republic of Rome and Civilization, that you really kind of do want as many players as you can get to play them. All right, I've heard this as well. Nuts I don't know that we've heard this in an official capacity, but I think they are going to bring Sword of Rome back from Nuts Publishing, which is pretty cool. And Meandering Mike says that Britannia is definitely best with 4. So here is the game on the table. Here is Wolfpack, and the gentleman waving his arms frantically, for I don't recall the reason, is Mr. Zilla Blitz, who is a terrific guy, and I was very delighted to meet him. So, Maria, good call. That's actually a pretty good call. That's another one. I don't have that, though. That is from... Ooh, who does that? Somebody will put it in the chat. I forget who published that. I know the game we're talking about, the companion game to Friedrich. But the game in question here is, and I think Mike Berticelli is the person with his finger pointing at this player aid card. But the game here is Wolfpack, which has come out very recently. Zilla's real name, I'm not sure if Zilla's talking about that. If you could zoom into this picture, maybe you could tell, but you can't. All right, here's another shot of the Rebel Fury table, and in the background there you can see Mark Herman talking to Jason Matthews, who is always very easy to spot at events because he is always wearing a sport coat, which makes me think he is some kind of alien, because under no circumstances do I ever wish to wear a sport coat. I am occasionally forced to, but I don't like it, and I will complain. HistGame, good call, is the publisher of Maria and Friedrich. Zilla's first name is Mike. There we go. I'm not sure if he's mentioned it, so I wasn't comfortable saying it. But apparently everybody knows, so it's fine. All right, anybody else I recognize here? No. All right, so here is the Marina in Daytime, and this is from the walk to one of the restaurants that I will talk about once we get to the restaurant list. This is... I'm trying to position myself in the room. So I'm kind of right inside the front doors here. And you can see kind of how big the room is. My phone camera, which is what I use to take these kinds of pictures, is fantastic because it was really not this well lit in this room. It's like the only complaint I have. It's a absolutely terrific event. But the lighting was bad. It was bad lighting, and the acoustics were bad too. But I can shout. I can live with that. Speak up. So on a table here, and I'm pretty sure I got another picture of this, is John Butterfield and Chad Jensen's Downfall, which looks marvelous as well. All right, here is, first of all, Mark Herman and a couple of other people, including a scowling Alexander from the Player's Aid. He's obviously taken lessons on doing this from Doc. A game of Maurice Suckling's Crisis 1914, which looks very interesting to me. I don't think I agree with this Eric Burden at all. I feel like it's got, 4 or 5 battles in it, something like that. So I'm happy with that, right? In terms of component count, you might be right, but I don't care too much about that. I'm looking for content and not physical content, but gameplay content, right? All right, there you go. So, in any case. All right, so moving on. This is just a random shot of some interesting older games that I saw in the other room. We got some Blue and Gray Quad here, the Old American Civil War, Blue and Gray 2, Terrible Swift Sword, Silver Bayonet, and the reprint of Vietnam from GMT. So this was played on a number of tables as well. This is Fred Serval's Guest of Robin Hood, which must be good. It sold out very quickly, right? So, and certainly it is very pretty. I have not played it, and I think it is just not my kind of thing. So I was okay. I gotta not spend all the money, right? So here's me and Zilla. Zilla got a picture. I got a picture. I believe someone grabbed my butt, which is why I'm making this strange and hitherto unknown facial expression. So there's that. Okay, so we'll talk about this in a bit. This is a game called Microverse. Remember, Microverse, not microscope, because I have mistakenly said microscope at least 25 times. This is a Sam London game, and it is a Space 4X game that plays in a remarkably short period of time. In fact, if you were to conduct a race, if you will, and say on one table we will play Microverse, and on the other table we will set up Twilight Imperium, you will probably be finished with the game of Microverse before Twilight Imperium is set up. So, Brant, thanks for stopping by, though. I'll have more pictures of this because I did get to play it. It is pretty cool and will be coming from GMT. I expect there to be that announcement in the next GMT update. Microscope, which I have played, is indeed an indie RPG that is kind of like a world building exercise. It's pretty neat. It is, yeah. We're still coughing a little bit. I'm taking the Mucinex I take does not prevent the coughing, but it makes the coughing productive. All right. In any case, here is Liz Davidson and the back of David Thompson's head. They are playing. I think this is Queen of Spies. This is their next collaboration after Night Witches, which is basically done. It just has to work its way through the Fort Circle Games production queue. So that is probably a mid-2025 release. That's a guess. So Kevin, if you're listening, feel free to correct me. Several people are saying that Robin Hood is very coin light, which, okay, coin has been influential, right? So I haven't really looked at the 7 Years battle game. However, I did do some playthrough video on the Shiloh game, which is a part of this series. And it is called the Civil War Brigade Battle Series. And I actually think if you're looking for a very light brigade level Civil War battles system, this is not a bad choice. There are now several games in this series, including Antietam, which I did not like the way the victory conditions were set up in Antietam, but I liked Shiloh more. There's now a Gettysburg game, a 7 Days battle game, and I think Franklin is either out or is about to be out. Patrick of Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials. Some people, it's going to be too light for some people, and if you're going to listen to Stigler's going to say this feels like Tiddlywinks to me, because it is not GBACW or even vaguely comparable in detail. The 7 Days as a topic is a very interesting topic, but I don't know how like the box is set up. I mean, what does it include? Is there like a campaign of all the battles? I don't know. So you will have to do your own research on that, but I'm reasonably sure that BGG will have some information. Here's David and Liz actually looking at the camera. David, of course, met many times. Liz, I had never met in person before, so this was fantastic to do that. I knew what this was when I was looking at it, and now I don't remember what it is. Nor am I able to parse that map. This is a prototype of something. So, Stuart, very good. Stuart says he likes the 7 Days battles best of the set. It has multiple battles, which is true. And they are pretty short battles, whereas like Shiloh and Antietam are pretty big battles. So there's that too. No, they normally don't announce the exact dates, but normally they run for a week or so. So Stuart says there's 2 double-sided maps. You can set up 2 boards next to each other to play 2 battles as one big game. That's pretty cool. So what's up, fellow teenagers? Stigler, of course, who is Mr. GBACW, he's no problem taking a year to play through Gettysburg or Antietam. And frankly, neither do I. But, you know, it is just a style of game, and it's not going to work for everybody. So, it's not even Blind Swords. I mean, it's easier to play than Blind Swords. I also like the rather nice touch that Worthington usually includes multiple copies of the rulebook, which is handy. And I think it's like an 8-page rulebook. It is very streamlined. So, Palmer Eldritch, the most of well, I'm not sure who you mean by you. You can meet a lot of people at Origins, but if you just want wargaming, then Origins is probably not the convention for you. Origins is an ideal convention to introduce gamers, but not wargamers, to wargaming, because there's a lot of gamers, but not wargamers there. You can certainly play wargames the entire time if you want. But so Palmer Eldritch, shoot me an email and I can tell you about this and tell me where you're at, because I can maybe give you some guidance, or check out the Wargaming convention calendar over at the Armchair Dragoons too. So, all right, I'll tell you this though, GCACW can be over pretty quickly once people know what they're doing. All right, so here's some Combat Commander getting played. This was played in both the big room and the little room at different times. It remains enduringly popular. There was some commands and colors on tables. I'm a little surprised there wasn't more. I only saw 1 or 2 of these. Kevin, that's not to say that you can't play a week's worth of GCACW. You obviously can, but you can also play a 2, 3, 4 turn game in a few hours once you know what's going on. All right, so this is Here I Stand. There were 2 simultaneous games of this going on, and I'd have played this too, although it is kind of a long time commitment. My objective, I wanted to play things I hadn't played before, okay? So I was not going to go to SDHistCon and look All right, so we'll fix this. Hold on a second here. Because the computer crashed. The computer needs to spend some time in the shop, I think. In any case, let me get the slideshow back up here, because I lost that when the computer crashed. So bear with me. I apologize for this, folks. All right, we've got a whole bunch of things we've got to fix here, so bear with me. All right, there we go. All right, so where were we? Let me fix the chat here for just a moment. All right, that ought to do that. All right, so sorry about that. These things do happen, but the computer crashed, and then I started again, and I'm loading up OBS, and it crashed again. I believe this is a processor problem, because I've got an Intel 13th Gen i7, and it's that generation of Intel processors blows. So there's that. Anyway, all right. Commands and colors, we've talked about that. This is Here I Stand. I would 100% have played this again had it not been full, but it is kind of a big time commitment. And my objective was to play stuff I hadn't played before, and I have played this before. Sitting next to Alexander here is Grant from Pushing Cardboard, by the way. He was there as well. This is... I don't remember what this is. I should have gotten the box because it's whatever this is. Darkest October or something like that. That's not what it's called. And I don't see it on the map. But this is obviously a prototype as well. Wait, which one's Virgin Queen? This is Virgin Queen. Well, there was a game of Virgin Queen and a game of Here I Stand then. This is the Virgin Queen game. So I'm not sure what this is. This is Here I Stand, however. And I'm pretty sure they had both tables completely full, which is desirable for both games, although Virgin Queen is a little more forgiving in that respect. So, all right. This is a game called Angria. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea what it represents. That name does not mean anything to me. There were a fair number. So off the top of my head, Grant from Pushing Cardboard was there. I was there. Liz Davidson was there. The Players Aid were there. Zilla was there. I'm trying to think if there was anybody else that's on YouTube. So that's a lot, but there's 4 or 5 different YouTube people at Buckeye Game Fest too. So I'm not 100% sure this is more true of SDHistCon than it is of any of a number of other events I could name. Just a Guard was there too. Good call. HUN644 new. So the block game on Norway. Just a Guard did several walkthroughs of the room, and he actually talked to people. I talked to people, but not on video. So I will have forgotten a lot of what these things are. All right. This is Pendragon, which is right. Yeah. So this is Pendragon. This is, one of my favorite coin games. Let me put it that way. This is Pax Pamir, which I have played and which is actually quite interesting. I wouldn't call it a war game because it's really about quote unquote the great game between the British and the Russians over influence in Afghanistan. So there's some military action in it, but it's not. There's no battles per se, right? And it's fairly abstract. But I have played it and it's pretty good. How many total attendees? It was Hissy Cat, thanks so much. It was about 150. Yeah, it's actually attendance capped because they want to keep the event pretty small. And to be frank, it would be difficult to fit more people into that room than were there already. All right, this is Liberty or Death, designed by SDHistCon's own Harold Buchanan, and which is another of my favorite coin games. So it is an excellent game. This is a prototype of Congress of Vienna, which it looks very similar to Churchill, and I am highly interested in it, being interested in this general topic, and it's probably going to be a 2025 release from GMT, I think. All right, here is the Korea game out of C3I Magazine. Is this out? I don't think this is even out yet, so I think this is the next C3I game. And I think the game is a Trevor Bender design. Indeed it is. So I think this will be pretty interesting from the standpoint of somebody that wants a Korean war game but doesn't necessarily want to play the Victory Games Joe Volkowski Civil Korean War, which is, a little more involved, although you could play it in a day, let alone something like OCS Korea or something like that. So, or any of the variety of other things that are around. Holdfast Korea probably plays quickly, but the folks that like that series seem to have liked that one less. All right, so Marty says that Rally the Troops has a good PAX Pamir implementation. There you go. And Aaron Danis confirms that this C3I issue is not even on pre-order yet. So there's that. This is the Plum Island Horror, and it was being played in the less terribly lit room. This was played at least a couple of times. I would say, Games from the Front, thanks for stopping by. I would say that a lot of the content in the magazine is still GMT forward, but there has been a noticeable uptick in material about other games other than what GMT does. The magazine is pretty much, from my understanding, and somebody can correct me if this is nonsense, my understanding is that the magazine has basically always been Roger, regardless of who the publisher is. So, all right, this is something about the Peninsular War, which is very intriguing, and I'm not sure what this other thing over here is. But nothing was happening on the Peninsular War map, and that was the one I was more interested in. So here's another shot of Downfall from the room with the windows. The big room has 0 windows. It is like a vault. One of the people playing in this Downfall game, by the way, was Eric Lee Smith, who was in attendance, as was Nick Karp, which I thought was awesome. John C. Played Plum Island Horror here in the Philippines, and they've read, oh boy, we're not going to touch this. All right, anyway. This is some kind of miniatures pirate-looking, ship-looking thing. I don't know what this is, but I can tell you that later, and we'll see a picture of this, Purple Haze was being played on this table. It looked cool, so I took a picture of it. So here are the restaurants in the area. The only one that's, I guess, not close, and I didn't go to it, was the OB Noodle House and Sake Bar. Harbortown Pub. So the ones I went to were Point Loma Seafood. The whole neighborhood is Point Loma. And the Meat Dumpling. Those are the two of these places I went to. I went to Point Loma twice, and I went to Meat Dumpling once. And then one of the nights I went out to dinner with Harold and Mark, and we went to some place called Greenscape or Green Leaf or something like that. And I don't know how to describe it except to say that it was very good. I really wanted to go to the Noodle House because I am a big noodles guy, but unfortunately, it apparently was further away, which wouldn't have been a problem, but the opportunity just never came up either. So it just wasn't going to happen. Meat Dumpling was outstanding, and Point Loma Seafood, which is like almost literally on the water, is as good as you would expect it to be. So these other places are supposed to be good, and Umi Sushi was literally right across the street. There's also, I think, there's a taco place. I forget the name of the taco place. It's like right on the corner, and that was pretty good too. That is not on this list. Not very far, and in fact, there were a couple of people that were talking about going, and I was in on that conversation, and I wasn't feeling like it because it would have been Sunday morning, and at that point, I'm like, I gotta go today. I don't really want to go on a field trip today. But next time, USS Midway, that'll be awesome. Lots of folks aren't into sushi. I'll eat sushi, but not from like the mall or a gas station. That's dumb. This looked like a respectable sushi place, and frankly, it was in the kind of area where you would think the sushi would be good. So, all right. This is another prototype and another Sam London design. It is called Envelopment, and apparently there are several parallel sort of versions of this that Sam is working on, and he'll see which one seems to work the best. This is the Ancients ones, and the idea is that it is Carthaginians versus Romans. I played against Kevin from Fort Circle, and this is not in anybody's pipeline right now other than Sam's. It's pretty interesting. It's highly abstract and wasn't really my cup of tea. That said, I do think there are people who would like this quite a bit. You're kind of trying to like get these arrangements of your troops versus the other troops, and that will result in dealing casualties. So it's a neat design. It's not my bag. All right. This is Arcs, which is, I believe, a Space 4X game, or adjacent anyway, and which I have been told I would like. But I haven't played it and didn't have a chance to play it here. Jet Bell says that Mitch's seafood was really good. All right. Kevin Featherly says, get a burger from Hodad's on Newport Avenue. There was another place called Winchel's, which is apparently a West Coast donut chain. The donuts are quite good, better than Dunkin' Donuts. I don't hate Dunkin' Donuts. They're just not as good as they used to be. I'm not a fan of their coffee, however. I do like their sandwiches, unless you get it at the airport. In the airport, it sucked. So, all right, here's another picture of Arcs. This is that thing again that I can't identify. Can I rotate it in order to identify it? The Coldest Winter is what this is called. So I believe this is the Winter War, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is Winter War. So, I don't hate Dunkin'. I just don't like their coffee. I think they're comparable to Tim Hortons. I like Dunkin's sandwiches better. I like Tim's coffee better. And the donuts are about the same, to be honest. So, there were a lot of coffee places nearby, too, to be honest. All right, this is one of the Birth of America series from Academy Games. And I'm not sure if this is 1812 or 1775, but I'm pretty sure it's 1812. I've played the 1775 one. Games from the Front says it's 1775. So I'll take your word for it. I haven't played this in 7 or 8 years. I did like it. I just haven't played it in 7 or 8 years. John C., I don't like Krispy Kreme donuts. I think they are donuts manufactured in a factory and then shipped to gas stations where people just need a donut. They don't care how bad it is. People say, oh, they're great when they're warm, but every donut is great when it's warm. I can go to Kroger at 7 in the morning and get warm donuts, and they will be amazing. And they will be, frankly, better than Krispy Kremes, in my opinion. I realize that a lot of people love them, and good for them. They can have them. All right, this is the Battle of Green Spring Plantation. This is obviously a prototype. This is part of the small battles of the American Revolution system that Mark Miklos is working on. So, this is Quartermaster General, the World War II edition. I've played this too, and I think Quartermaster General is like Risk, but kind of cooler. I do think you want to play it with 5. I think it's a 5-player game. I think you do want to play it with 5 rather than having single people juggle more than one country. But it's not an absolute necessity. I have never had Krispy Kreme donuts. I've never had In-N-Out Burger. I have had Krispy Kreme donuts to my general dismay. So, of course, Tim Hortons ran all the independent donut places in Columbus out of business, except for Buckeye Donuts down by campus, and Jolly Pirate Donuts, and I think they have 1 or 2 locations left. And, what's it called? There's a bakery I think it's in Columbus, but it might actually be in Whitehall, the name of which is eluding me right now, but it's like a really good old school donut place, and the donuts are amazing. So, all right, this is Pub Battles, which I think has been rebranded into something else from what I hear. These obviously games look really cool. I have never played any of them. Yeah, I mean, Tim's it's fine, but there's more Tim's here than there are Dunkins in Ohio in general. But I can find Dunkins if I really want to, but it's fine. On the other hand, if I'm at Compass Expo, I will frequently just walk across the street to the Dunkin' Donuts for breakfast. And I don't like their hot coffee, but their iced coffee is fine. I don't mind their iced coffee. And I actually, a lot of times, but not always, will prefer iced coffee over hot nowadays. Duck Donuts. We've got one of those down here. I don't know if those are any good. I'll have to try it. Thanks for the recommendation. All right. This is from Men of Iron. I don't forget which Men of Iron game. This is... fuck, I can't read that upside down. That didn't help. Civitate. I don't remember which game this is out of, but... a massive amount of sugar will improve... any coffee drink. This might be, you never know, this might be amazing. Duck fat is one of those magical fats. All right, so Norman Conquest is where this is out of. So, all right, here are, I don't know who these gentlemen are, although I believe one or both of them were playing in the Microverse game that I was in, as was Candace Harris, actually. Here they are playing Purple Haze, which came out relatively recently, and which I've seen on a couple of tables. So the Portuguese center that we were in, it took me like all day to learn this, has a Portuguese market where you can buy like Portuguese pastries and linguiça and stuff like that. And that was kind of cool. I took a picture of it so that I could look at their website to see if I can get linguiça out here, because I have never... Linguiça is a Portuguese sausage. It's kind of like vaguely like chorizo. And I like it a lot, and I have never seen it outside of California, personally. So one of the demographic things that you will notice at SDHistCon is that, now bear in mind, it is not a quote-unquote wargaming convention. It is a historical board gaming convention. And as you would expect at a historical board gaming convention, war games are very well represented, but they are not the entirety of what goes on. The demographics they skewed. I want to make sure everybody understands that I am... Let's keep our expectations under control here. The demographics at this event skewed both younger and less exclusively male than it would at a typical wargame convention. Let me put it that way. There were a number of women there, including Kai Jensen was there. Liz Davidson was there. I did not prepare for this question, obviously. Several others were there who I did not know. Candace was there. And I've had a little bit of contact with Candace, and she's very nice. So quite a few, relatively larger number, let me put it that way. And the Players' Aid's wives were there, but I did not see them in the convention themselves. I don't know that they weren't, but I didn't see that. So, all right. Anyway, this is Falling Sky, another coin game, another Roman coin game, so I'm into it. I cannot speak to Tim's in Canada. I can tell you that one of the early investors in Tim Hortons as a chain was Wendy's. Wendy's is headquartered in Columbus, so there are a lot of Tim Hortons in Columbus, and fewer outside of Columbus, but in Ohio, but not none. That was gross. All right, so, folks, I am going to take a quick break while I get some water, and we're going to hear from our good friends at Noble Knight Games, because it is about that time. So take it away, Noble Knight.
Here at Noble Knight Games, we've been carefully growing the world's largest selection of board games, role-playing games and dice, war games, miniatures and paints, card games, and more, going on 25 years now. Our rustic castle contains more game and hobby goodness than you can shake a stick at, complete with careful packaging and the finest customer service the land can provide. You can buy, sell, trade from anywhere in the world, just like nature intended. Noble Knight Games.
All right, so big thanks to Noble Knight Games. They are great people running a great business, and folks should give them some business. And don't forget about the affiliate link in the video description. Regardless of me not having a campaign, the store credit will continue to pile up. That completely slipped my mind, and it didn't occur to me until I sat down to push the button today. Because remember, I've got a card for that. So, all right, so this is once again Microverse. Again, a Sam London game. I think this game has significant breakout potential for GMT. So I think this is one to keep an eye on. I will buy this. This is a very good game. And Sam has, already expansions in the works and a bunch of other stuff. So this is one to definitely keep an eye on. It plays very quickly. It's supposedly 15 minutes per player. Might have even come in a little under that in our game, although I don't know that that's the case every time. But I said when we played, I'm like, it took less time to play this than it takes me to set up Twilight Imperium. Which I like. I like Twilight Imperium a ton, and I have Eclipse, and I haven't played it yet. But this plays really quickly, and I think that is very attractive, especially for this kind of thing. And I believe we had 7 or 8 players. All right. This is Death of an Army, Ep198 from Revolution Games. Some people were playing this, and they came prepared because it is in this nice wooden frame. I haven't played this, but I hear it is terrific. So, very good. Thank you, John C. Much appreciated. And by the way, if anybody hasn't seen the warehouse and store tour from Noble Knight that I posted earlier last week, actually, do check that out. It's pretty cool, and I wish I'd have gotten more footage, if anything else. There is one more video coming, which is the interview with Dan Leader, who is the CEO, I think. I'm not sure that's the correct title, but he's in charge. And he's a super duper nice guy, and I'll apologize right now for the dismal audio quality of that recording. So I'll have that in a week or two. So whenever we've got time to do the edit. All right, this is... Somebody in the chat will recognize this, but I forget what it is. Yeah, the warehouse is amazing. It is amazing. And I worked for 15 years in warehouses, right? So I actually have a bit of professional interest in just the warehousing part of it too, other than the games. But I didn't do that in the warehouse. I was walking around gawping like a dope. It was great. All right, I'm not sure what this is, but the pieces are nice, I can tell you that. This is the classic Battle for Germany, which got set up and played in the well-lit room. This is Europe in Turmoil 2. There may have been a Europe in Turmoil 1 game as well, because it was right there, and I did not get a picture of that if that did occur. I am super interested in this and should really pick it up. And now's the time, because Compass's sale is going on right now, too. H1644, yeah, they do. And I think that series might be worth a very significant look once that second... I will take a very significant look at it once the next game comes out. Carl Fung, thanks for stopping by. Carl, I'll have you know I am clipping Goose Green right now. So, very slowly, but that's okay. It's only half a counter sheet, which is, let's say, not at my maximum for the show, but it is the maximum for my attention span tonight. So, all right, Europe in Turmoil 2. I hear it's good. I hear it's got some issues. I hear it's still good. This is Plains Indian Wars. So I'm going to talk about this. Can I get a better angle on this? That's not bad. All right, so this is a GMT game, came out a couple of years ago, designed by John Paniski. My understanding is that the rule book, which I at no point during this experience picked up, has some issues, but there is an update on the webpage, on GMT's website, and the game is excellent. It is not a cheerful game. If you are prone to sympathizing with the Native American side, it is either a 2 or 4 player game. I guess you could play it with 3. 2 players play basically the U.S., and the other 2 players play the North and South Plains tribes, respectively. And this was really clear. Garrett-Claire, that is what that is. That is apparently French for lightning war. I thought it was French for war donut, but that's because I'm from Ohio. So, and that would be this thing. And I'm hearing good things about this too. So, all right, Plains Indian Wars. Very good. Did I get multiple pictures of this? I did. So I got to play this, and I liked it a lot. I will actually probably pick this up at some point. It's got some Euro mechanics, but other mechanics that I would describe as not Euro mechanics. And it feels like, I mean, it's basically about the westward expansion of the U.S. into Native American territory, right? So I liked it a lot. I think it's a very strong game. We got roasted as the Native American players. So, but the guy who was running the game, who was the guy who was explaining it to everybody, and I'm not trying to imply that he was cheating, but he knew what he was doing, and I didn't. So that was a factor. So, all right. And here's another picture of people pointing at Plains Indian Wars. I was pretty impressed with this game. I will tell you that these little plastic, figures here were used to mark activated spaces. The game does not include that, and it is probably desirable for you to get something to mark those activated spaces. And as Wolfdog points out, John, thanks for stopping by. You've probably been here the whole time, of course, and I just didn't notice or forgot. It's pretty much the 1775 system from Academy. It's much of what goes on in this game resembles that quite strongly. Kevin Featherly played this, went well, reminiscent of Bleeding Kansas, which is also not surprising, particularly. I'm interested in Bleeding Kansas as well, by the way. I mean, I could use a war donut right about now, to be fair. All right, I took a bunch of pictures of this because I thought it was great. I liked the game a lot. This is... I need water. This is... Undaunted, Normandy, I think. So this was getting a decent amount of play, and of course David was there. Interestingly, he was one of the people I didn't see playing it. This is the prototype for the new edition of A House Divided from GMT and Frank Chadwick. Our very own Carl Crater from the Wargame Bootcamp will be developing this game. And this has a lot of potential. I got to play it for a couple, I think we did three, I don't know. I think we did a little bit into 1862, maybe one or two turns of 1862. But it's a pretty strong game. I'm a little concerned about playtime. I think the playtime is going to run a little long, which is undesirable for the kind of game that it is. But I think it's very easy to play. It plays the early turns. If you know what you're doing, you could get the whole of 1861 done in 10 minutes, probably. There's a lot to like about this. So I will be definitely keeping a close eye on this. And I've already ordered the new one from GMT, so whatever. This is... I'm sorry to hear this, John. That's not okay. I don't know anything about this. I think I only have one other John Paniski game, I think. I'm still waiting for Black Eagles. Give me Black Eagles. I was super intrigued by that when they started talking about it, and it was supposed to have been out several years ago. This is Germantown from the Battles of the American Revolution series. I have no idea what this is. Diluvium? Is that what this is called? I think this is some kind of Atlantis themed thing, I think. So I can't tell you a thing about this. It looks like I'm going strictly by what it looks like. This looks like a mid-complexity Euro to me. That is completely a guess. I could be wrong. It could be dead on. I have no idea. Here somebody was setting up They Come Unseen, which is a submarine game, and it comes with this little cool battleship-looking thing, which is cool. This is John Company. I almost said Vijayanagara because it's got India on it, but no, this is John Company. There were a couple games of this getting played, and there were a couple of people, and Cole Worley was one of them, wearing these kind of amazing Magic Realm t-shirts, by the way. I thought that was pretty cool. But this is John Company, which is another game I would like to play, but have not played it and don't have it. Propheties at Albion. Well, certainly this is not the venue to ask that question, but it would not shock me should that get picked up somewhere. And the logical place for that to happen, to me, is GMT, right? Mike, I also did not know this. I had no idea. So yeah, we'll see. If we're talking about the Here I Stand map, it's the draft. It's like the first draft map. That's why there's so much water on that map. So don't worry about that. I don't think they would do it with plastic minis. I think they would do it with blocks like they have done all the other Commands and Colors games. And personally, I would be delighted if they would just have blocks. Would I buy that? I don't think I would. I don't think I would buy that. But that's because I have reached my commitment level with Commands and Colors. I have Napoleonics. I have everything for Napoleonics. I have Ancients. I've got the main set and like one or two of the expansions, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy to play other Commands and Colors games, but I don't need to own them. They also can't. They're not hard to find games of that. Let me put it that way. All right. This is another game of Crisis 1914. And I'd love to try this too. This sounded really interesting when Maurice started talking about it. A good number of tables were occupied by Red Dust Rebellion. So as I think everybody is doubtless aware, this is the latest coin game. It is the first science fiction coin game. And interestingly, now I'm going to make an assumption that everybody listening has some idea of how coin works, where there's no hands, you have a deck, and you can see the card that's in play and the next card coming up, and then periodically sprinkled throughout the deck, you'll have scoring cards where you do a scoring round, okay? That's like the basic coin format shared by every coin game, except one of the factions in this game, which works completely differently. I find that super duper interesting. In addition to just liking the theme, I'm into sci-fi stuff. This sounds cool. You know, Mars Rebellion, that's cool. I will talk about that in the context of Babylon 5 rather than the Expanse, but this does have an Expanse adjacent feel to it. And if you're a big fan of the Expanse, you might be into this. I will 100% buy this too. And I'll absolutely will play it, but I'll probably buy it first, to be fair. This is another thing that I would 100% have played had I been able to get into it. This is Lords of Baseball, and this looks awesome. It is Euro mechanics, by the way, in case anybody is gets the wrong idea from its generally very spreadsheety appearance. It is very spreadsheety, but it is also very Euro. So it's got kind of, this was described to me as an engine builder. And from what I know of it, that makes sense. But to my knowledge, I have never played an engine builder, so I don't really know what that means. So I might have a completely nonsensical understanding of what engine builder means. All right. I don't know what this is, but it had hexagons, so I took a picture of it. It looks like a chess-ish thing, maybe. I haven't the vaguest idea. So, if you are from the area, I guarantee you know how to pronounce the names. But if you are not from the area, you are probably going to sound like a dolt. So, and this is the last picture I took. So, let me pull this down, pull this back up, and hop back over to here. All right. So, I got to meet a whole bunch of people that I hadn't met in person before, but whom I had some contact with, like Harold Buchanan and Gene Billingsley, Rachel and Luke were there as well. And there's no dealing area. I think some people might have been selling stuff, but no, there was no like dealer's room or anything like that. I wanted to play stuff that was either not a thing I'd played before, or that was otherwise outside my wheelhouse. And what I played was Army of the Potomac's not really outside my wheelhouse, but I hadn't actually played it, so it sort of counts. I got to play that. I got to play like I said, a little bit of House Divided. That was neat. I got to play Microverse, and I got to play Plains Indian Wars. I said it correctly, Microverse. And they're all pretty cool. Microverse is the only thing that I played that was a prototype. I don't count House Divided in this respect because the game's been out for 30 years. But in any case, I had a fantastic time at this convention. So next year, if we go next year, I'm already working on the wife to try to get her to go, because we had talked about that, but that was not a thing that was going to work just based on the schedule this year. So I definitely want to go back. I definitely want to go back next year, and we will see what that looks like. However, I would probably get a closer hotel. Not that the hotel was unreasonably far away. It wasn't, and the weather was really nice. So I saw a cloud one time while I was out there. There was a cloud. It was very small. Other than that, the weather was sunshine all the time. It does get chilly at night. So next time I will pack a hoodie, which was more than sufficient. I would make it a point to go to more of the restaurants next time, including the ones I didn't go to this time. I had just a fantastic time. It's a very warm convention. The vibe is very welcoming. It felt great. Everybody was awesome. I just had a fabulous time. And of course, it was great to meet, people that I had either met before or had talked to and had never met in person, or one of the people running the show with Harold grew up in Avon Lake, Ohio, the same town as me. So chilly at night and in the morning, actually. So first thing in the morning it would be, and I was getting up at my regular time, which, I shouldn't say that. I slept in, which means I got up at 6 San Diego time. That's like 9 Ohio time. So sorry about that, Marty. I'm not seeing any issues over here. That could be local. If anybody else is having problems with the audio, let me know. That could be me moving around too much too. That's possible. I gotta stop doing that. Let me know if this is any better. All right. So, the topic then of getting the return on your wargaming investment is not intended to mean you are investing in wargames as like a retirement plan. I think it's actually me moving around too much. Because anybody that does that is probably not making the best investment decisions. Which is not to say you can't make a couple bucks on war game speculation, but you're probably better off putting that into an IRA or something like that, or something. So, I love chicken fried steak. I don't know anything about Texarkana though. I've never been there. I haven't really been to Texas that much either. And I've never been to Texas to like stay. I've only been to Texas to fly to somewhere else. So usually Mexico. But Houston is a hub for like multiple airlines, as I recall. So it's pretty easy to end up with a Houston layover. All right, we're going to need these. We're going to need this. And we're going to need these. And everything else is a generic marker. And I don't think I need those, since I have a marker tray for TCS already. So, and I've said this before, right? Somebody asked this on BGG, and that's why I mentioned it. And it kind of came up earlier when somebody said they felt like they didn't quite get enough stuff in Norman Conquests. You can look at the GCACW games as well and say, hey, these games are, $150 or whatever. And I'm getting like 2 maps, 2 counter sheets, and 2 books, and a couple of player aids and some dice. And that feels like not that much when you like line that up against what you would get for $150 from GMT. But I have never hesitated to spend that money on a GCACW game or an OCS game because I know I will play them. It is not a question. It is only a question of in what order do the games get played, right? I know for a fact that I will play those games, and I only need to play them once, one of the big campaigns, to give me a very, very positive dollars per hour of entertainment number, ratio, if you will. So, I don't mind. I like the Blue Panther production quality, frankly. The rulebook's a little less, but I don't care about that as much. I like the counters. They're super thick. You're generally not getting enormous games from Blue Panther, unless you're buying a Red Sash games, in which case you are, in fact, getting pretty big games. Chicken fried steak is pretty similar to Wiener Schnitzel, except that it is typically... So, Wiener Schnitzel is typically pounded and then breaded and fried, or schnitzel in general, whereas chicken fried steak is normally what we called in the butcher shop cubed, which means you'd run it through this machine with some rotating blades that would perforate the meat and make a otherwise fairly leathery piece of beef much more tender. I used to call that device the pre-chewer, by the way. But it was called the tenderizer was what it was actually called. But yeah, who doesn't love chicken fried steak? That's just weird. We can close that now too. My voice is given out. Let me get some more water and some more whiskey. Haven't had enough whiskey here tonight. So the same logic applies. Now maybe let's take Norman Conquest as an example. Okay. Yeah, but if you can get them print on demanded too. They're quite expensive print on demand, but the games are big, right? It's not like the typical. This is not in any sense a slight against Hollenspiel or anybody else that Blue Panther works with. But they tend to be pretty small games with a counter sheet or a half a counter sheet and roughly a half size map. The Red Sash stuff is not like that. It's like full size everything, like 10 counter sheets or whatever. Those games are huge. So I'm taking Mucinex to loosen up that. So. All right. Yeah. Well, you are aware that occasionally we do talk about food on this show. So, well, they are expensive, but remember there is a print and play option. And let me say, and I mean no disrespect to Red Sash or anybody else doing print and play games. Fuck that. I'm not print and playing shit. I don't have the time for those kind of bullshit paper crafts. Okay. If somebody else does, cool for them. I don't. I will pay someone else to do that work for me, whether that is some Chinese people or whether that is Steve from Blue Panther. I am happy to pay them to do it. So, and I don't want to pick on Multiman either, because they're not the only ones that have higher prices than GMT. Most of these publishers have higher prices than GMT. GMT prints in larger quantities. That helps them with their margins. Not everybody has that benefit, particularly your sort of core wargame publishers, Decision, MMP, Compass, Revolution. Revolution tends to do smaller games too, though, which might alleviate some of that, right? And I, at this point, have a decent chunk of Revolution games. Only one of which is in a box, oddly enough, but I have a decent chunk of Revolution games. Yes, this is actually new. Well, it might not be new news, but it's news. More whiskey. So delicious. Anyway, Lock and Load is going to release some of their old out-of-print stuff through Blue Panther. So if you're interested in getting some of that old stuff, I have other Lock and Load news too, by the way. That stuff might be appearing through Blue Panther. Now, the 3 late Kickstarters that Lock and Load has been having people wait for some time now. And this comes from Lock and Load. They are reporting that they are on a ship headed across the Pacific, even as I speak. So those ought to hit the West Coast in no more than a couple of weeks, I would think. I have the vaguest idea, but you can actually go find the post on social media that they put it, and they'll give you the tracking link so you can track the ship yourself. And once they hit that and go through customs, then they should start getting shipped out in reasonably short order. So now something like I would consider some of those little Labatai games because they're small, right? I can take the map up to Staples and get it printed there, and I can probably handle the, 60 counters that you would need. So that's not bad, but printing like a full-size game by myself, nah, I'm just not doing it. So I thought I am not sure what counts as old stuff from Lock and Load in that respect. Yeah, this is McAllen. Thank you very much. I had, as soon as I got it home, I had to open it up and smell it. And of course, then I had to taste it. And it is just as good as I remembered. So very good. There's tons and tons and tons of good food in Chicago. I am a big fan of the Chicago Italian beef sandwiches, and like a lot of Chicagoans, like people not from Chicago tend to think that their like signature thing is either Chicago style hot dogs or Chicago style pizza, and a lot of people from Chicago don't seem to agree with that. A lot of people from Chicago like the Chicago tavern pizza instead, which is way less heavy, and a lot more like a regular pizza from somewhere else. So this makes sense, Perfidious Albion, if we're talking about the ones out of Invictus, which came with what I would call unmounted counters. I'm not sure that's technically true, but they came on like a thick card stock, like much like you'd get on a player aid on, rather than like mounted cardboard as we're used to here in the U.S. I don't know that Vivictus is doing that anymore. I suspect that they're not, and I can absolutely say that none of the other French publishers are doing that today. So. We have a John Carlos Giannini's, I forget what the place is called, in Columbus now, and it's great. Just don't eat that much of it, because your colon will fall off. So Rogue 77, Stigler said something like this before, up thread a bit, and I've said things like this in the past as well. I feel like if I can play the game, maybe if it's a short game, I might need to play it a couple of times. Like, say, Maneuver, Jeff Horger's Maneuver, which is an intriguing game. That's a game that takes like half an hour. What's a better example? Fort Sumter, or Fred's Red Flag Over Paris, which I think plays in a roughly comparable amount of time. I might need to play that a couple of times to feel like I'm getting my money's worth out of it. But like any substantial game, if I play it once, it works out to less than $5 an hour for my gaming pleasure, and therefore I'm cool with it, right? So now, that's not to say I don't say holy shit when something comes out and it's $300. That's expensive, right? But my whole philosophy on this is I buy games to play, right? I don't get to everything, because nobody does. And I would, beef on Weck is amazing, by the way. You can't get that here. Used to be, you could get it at Buffalo Wild Wings, but they don't have Weck anymore. And even their burgers are not that good anymore, frankly. I am just going to clip the rest of these, and because I'm sitting here for another half an hour anyway. Mech War 2. Well, there won't be an unboxing, but I will do some video on all of the SPI soapboxes sooner or later. The one I am farthest ahead on is actually War Between the States. So, because I've played it, and therefore I had, thoughts already, so I didn't have to think too hard about it. But we will see. The other nice thing about Mech War 2 is it's not necessarily an enormous project to play it. At least to play part of it. So, we are going to continue to make fun of Dan for saying this, but they are, right? Well, I think it's a little more complicated than just saying they are. But I do think. All right, let me get the actual comment I'm responding to. Missy Cat says that most war games are underpriced by the publishers, and I think this is actually true. I've got to rely on the publishers to decide what the prices are going to be, okay? Because they know what all their costs, the details of their costs are, and I don't. They know what it costs to print and ship and all that stuff, and then pay the designers whatever they pay them, and presumably ham sandwiches. And I'm not privy to that information. But it feels to me like we have, and when I say this, I will absolutely acknowledge I'm as guilty of this as anybody. I just said I buy games to play, and I tell myself that, but I've got way more games than I can play. I've got like 650 war games at this point. That's a lot. So we probably buy more games than we need. We should probably think about, as people who are financially responsible, buying fewer games, but make them games that we know we're going to play. I've never bought anything just as a shelf ornament. I'm not a bric-a-brac guy, so nor have I ever like gone after someone's autograph. I've got 3 autographs. I'm trying to think if this is actually accurate. To my knowledge, I have 3 autographed items, and 2 of those autographs are from Mark Miller. So, And I did not ask in any of those cases for an autograph. Mark, I just bought it from Mark, and he's, oh, I remember, and he signed it. And I'm like, well, I wasn't going to argue with him. So now, in particular, though, I want to point out these, and I've talked about this before. Stigler was mentioning Death Valley, but there's a number of examples. Almost all of the recent GBOH, Great Battles of History games, for example, have been tremendous value. Death Valley, tremendous value. The American Revolution tri-pack, tremendous value. I'm a huge fan of what GMT is doing to bring some of their, at least of their older games back into print in these deluxe sort of omnibus editions, which invariably are great values. And when Thunderbolt comes out, it's going to be another one, because if you buy the deluxe one, which is not terribly expensive, it's going to have all 3 games in it. So this kind of thing doesn't even occur to me. I knew Mark was going to be there. I knew Mark was going to be at WBC. Could I have brought something for Mark to sign? Sure. Would Mark have been happy to sign it? I am positive that would be the case. And it didn't even occur to me to do that. So now, on the other hand, I made like a conscious decision to not bring games with me, because I might have taken a game or 2 home. I, in fact, brought no games home, which was a little surprising at the time. But then I'm like, thinking about it, I'm like, that's kind of cool, actually, in that it was a play-focused convention rather than a shopping-focused convention, as I tend to treat something like Origins, even though I'm tied up playing stuff too, or running stuff. I end up doing a lot of shopping as well. So I mentioned that there were a bunch of people there that I didn't get to say hello to. One of those, at least a couple of those people, I forgot who they were. Todd McFarlane, the comic book guy, the Spawn guy, Todd McFarlane, was there basically all day Saturday, I think. I had no idea. I did not have any idea that he was there until the following day. I might have recognized him, because I know who he is, even though I've been out of comics for a long time. And, I had not remembered, but he's a wargamer. He's been interviewed about it. So that's awesome. And it'd been cool to see him. But I'm generally, when I'm in the room with celebrities like that, if we want to call Ted McFarlane a celebrity, and in terms of how much money he's got, he's definitely a celebrity. I am usually content to say, that's George Takei, or whoever it is. And that was my encounter with George Takei, is, hey, that's George Takei. Awesome. I have seen Jerry Ryan like that. I saw Mira Furlan like that. I've seen a bunch of people like that. Not Shatner. There was somebody else from Star Trek that I think I've seen. It might have been Walter Koenig. And some of the people from Lost in Space I've seen. But I'm not like a celebrity chaser. We did my only celebrity encounter where I actually sort of kind of maybe interacted with the person was when I and several other people saw Billy D. Williams at the airport, and we all shouted, "Billy D! Billy D!" And he waved at us and kept doing what he was doing, getting to his plane. So that was cool. And I want to say that was at a Gen Con too, at the airport too. I might be misremembering that. So Mo from Mo's Game Table is here. Mo, thanks for coming by. I do feel super weird about this sometimes, I got to tell you. When people come up and are people I don't know, right? And I, very good at hiding my social anxiety. Let me put it that way. But I usually think I'm cool with it. No, I played the Noble Knight Ed. You missed the Noble Knight Ed. So I know, because I took the opportunity to open the door because it's friggin' boiling in here. So in any case, I guess we and a couple of us are here tonight, Mo and Stuka Joe and a few others. We have a more prominent face, I guess, inside the hobby, right? But we're also a really small hobby. And I did run into almost physically ran into him, Glenn Danzig, one time at a bar in Columbus. And James Gandolfini, my wife almost literally walked over him on the street in New York City. And I was like, who's that rude fucker? And I was like, that's James Gandolfini. She was a little less abrasive about it than that, actually. She'll be mad if I do that. But no, it was neat because we saw James Gandolfini. Now the late James Gandolfini, unfortunately. So, but you know, there are those of us who are willing, I guess, to put up, I don't want to put it that way. Not everybody is comfortable talking to a public audience, right? And I have completely respect for people who just don't want to do it or aren't comfortable with it, whatever. Those of us who can are on YouTube, right? I have not put up the ticker this entire night, so it's almost too late now. So this is, well, you did the world's shittiest celebrity. So, yeah, this basically was the deal in New York City. So we were just walking around and we were in the theater district, and it's like, hey, James Gandolfini, and he was signing something for somebody at the time. So, but I thought it was pretty cool. This would be pretty cool. This would be 100% in character for Sir Sean Connery. I got to tell you, there's a famous story which may or may not be apocryphal, and if you've seen L.A. Confidential, the individual in question, two of the three individuals in question are characters in the movie. So you'll remember in L.A. Confidential where they go up to a table with some hoodlums, and Guy Pearce's character, Exley, just makes an assumption that the lady at the table is a prostitute that has had plastic surgery to make her look like Lana Turner because she's hanging out with these gangsters. But that was actually Lana Turner. And that is true, right? Lana Turner's boyfriend was this shady character named Johnny Stompanato, who ended up getting himself killed, who's in the movie, and I think Russell Crowe beats him up. There's a story that Lana Turner and Sean Connery were in a movie together. I don't know what movie, something in the 50s. And Stompanato gets this idea that they're fooling around behind his back. So he barges onto this set and starts making threats to Sean Connery and starts waving a gun in his face. The story goes that Sean Connery took the gun away from him and pistol whipped him with his own gun. So that is the Sean Connery story. So yes, I would not address Sir Sean Connery. I would be satisfied to say, that was Sean Connery. That would be cool. Well, that's pretty cool. But again, New York City, right? So it's not hugely surprising. No, thank God, no one has ever asked for this. I would feel scandalized if somebody asked for an autograph. So he was everybody's favorite James Bond, I think. I think the most underrated James Bond is Timothy Dalton, personally. There was news about the James Bond casting search. I didn't read it. So, and Zardoz. Jim Ozarski has made a whole theme about this. So. And weird movie. I haven't seen that in a long time. It did get played presumably edited on network TV late at night sometimes in Cleveland. Please don't, Alistair, please don't. I think that George Lazenby was a bit underrated, actually. I think he could have been a good Bond had he done more. And, well, certainly there's my mother. So, and as Abraxas, I actually agree. I thought Lazenby was surprisingly good. This is pretty awesome. I think I liked Roger Moore better than not Timothy Dalton, but than Pierce Brosnan. But the Pierce Brosnan was done no favors by several of the Pierce Brosnan movies are really terrible. And relatively fewer of the Roger Moore movies are genuinely terrible. Really only A View to a Kill, I think, is the only real stinker. Octopussy's not great, and Moonraker's not great. But I saw Moonraker at like age 10. I thought it was amazing. There were space shuttles and laser guns and stuff. I mean, come on. So, and I think the problem was just that they had waited so long after the second Timothy Dalton one that they just needed somebody new at that point because he was already tied up with other stuff. So, I didn't know this. I have not heard great things about the game, though. So, Timothy Dalton's been in all kinds of stuff. He was also in The Lion in Winter, which may have been his first film role, in fact. I don't think. You know, so he was. So, and the character's loosely based on Errol Flynn, who was, let's say, a sympathizer of certain offshore institutions. Moonraker is super cheesy. There's no doubt about that. But Live and Let Die is super cheesy too. And I don't think that anybody thinks that Live and Let Die is terrible. Outland was amazing. Christopher Walken is awesome. And if I saw this movie again, I might be able to appreciate the Christopher Walken scenery chewing. But I did not appreciate it at the time. Let me put it that way. So I can appreciate a good piece of scenery chewing more so than I could when I saw that film, I got to tell you. Ann Dalton was in Prince Balin in Flash. Was it Prince Balin or the other guy? In Flash Gordon. Prince Baron. There you go. Something like that. Yeah, but so this is one of the reasons he retired, right? Is he turned down Lord of the Rings. And I mean, I don't know if they offered it to him or if he was like one of the people on the list, which is completely reasonable. It's really hard to imagine that we would have gotten a better choice than Ian McKellen in that part, frankly. But he's in a way, yeah, he's I mean, almost Dr. Evil level of over the top, to be fair. I'm not a big fan of Grace Jones either, to be honest. I did like her better in Conan the Destroyer, however. So, which is not my favorite movie. Not nearly a huge disappointment after the first one. So, I haven't actually seen any of the recent James Bond movies, so I don't know. I don't think so. No, you might be thinking of Alan Rickman, who was I think the sheriff of Nottingham, and I forget the guy's name that played Guy of Gisborne in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, but he was one of the villains from The Crow, and he's got this really incredibly gravelly voice like this. I forget who that was. You know, I've seen, I think, one dramatic part that John Cleese has played, and I'm not sure if he's done others or not. And it was the physicist in the Keanu Reeves version of The Day the Earth Stood Still, and he was very good in that. It wasn't a big part, but so Alan Rickman was great. Michael Wincott, thank you, Mo. That is indeed the fella I'm talking about. Those I've only seen the first one. I should probably watch the second one. He's fucking magnetic in that thing in Glass Onion. And the end, completely ridiculous, of course. King Richard shows up, and it's Sean Connery, because uncredited cameo too, which is cool because it's Sean Connery, right? So for that kind of thing, and that's a fairly cheesy movie too. Although, frankly, I think it is probably a little underappreciated. I think it's a better movie that a lot of people don't. They think it's worse than it is. Kevin Costner's not great in it, but Alan Rickman is terrific. Morgan Freeman is terrific. Everybody else in the movie is really good. So, and the guy that played Friar Tuck, I think, is the guy that played Robert Baratheon on Game of Thrones. So, Mark Addy is that actor's name. So, you could have gotten, I would not necessarily have protested at John Cleese as Gandalf. Let me put it that way. But again, I feel, now that we know, it's like, you couldn't have done better than Ian McKellen. So, at the time when, they announced the movie's getting made, there was just ridiculous amounts of speculation. And of course, Sean Connery was at the top of a lot of lists for Gandalf too. But like, they did in those movies, a lot of the people that were in those were people that weren't familiar to most American audiences. You would be more familiar with a number of them had you watched Hercules and or Xena, because a bunch of those people showed up on that, because that was filmed in Australia. But a lot of these people, and a lot of us had seen Bernard Hill before, the late Bernard Hill before too, because he was the captain in Captain Smith in Titanic. But I'd never seen John Noble before. I'd never seen David Wenham before. We'd seen Sean Bean, of course. You are right. You are right. You are right about this. And that is a dreadful movie. You are right about this. That is a terrible film. He's fine in it. And Cate Blanchett, I like Cate Blanchett in almost everything, and she did the best she could with it, with shitty material. I am convinced that Ridley Scott does not have an eye for writing. And if somebody involved in the production does, and the writing is good, he's got a wonderful eye for cinematography and camera work, and he's really good at that. But if he doesn't have a good script to work with, then the movie turns into trash. I think that was the problem with Napoleon. I think that was the problem with Prometheus, which I think are two really genuinely dreadful Ridley Scott movies. It's also probably better than people think it is, but man, it's dumb. It's dumb. It's not even cheesy. It's dumb. And that's worse, in my opinion. I can handle cheese. I think I heard about this. Who played Robin Hood in Time Bandits? Was that John Cleese? Am I misremembering that? It's been a long time since I've seen that. No, I'm aware of this, but they hired many Australian actors as well to participate in the project. So, I mean, this could be, I have no idea. I am insufficiently interested in watching that again to do any research on it or like listen to the director's commentary or anything. I love that movie. That's a great movie. And the book's good too, by the way. I did read the book before watching the movie. The movie definitely is faithful to the book, but not in necessarily a literal way. It is very faithful to the tone of the book. Now, Kingdom of Heaven, I am convinced, was destroyed by the studio in editing because the director's cut or extended cut or whatever we're calling it is indeed awesome. But the theatrical release, I saw it in the theater, the theatrical release was incredibly disjointed. You had no idea what the hell was going on. So, ooh, really? I didn't know about Red Sonja. With the Brigitte Nielsen Red Sonja? That is not a great movie. I'm hearing good things about Gladiator 2, actually. I'm hearing it's fun. And hey, it's ancient Romans. I could probably swallow it. Probably. I don't know. But I probably am not going to go see it in the theater either. So, Project L. That was my favorite. This, of course, is my favorite line from the movie. And it's not from the book. This is not in the book. Where Jeff Daniels is like the NASA director. And they're talking about Project Elrond. And everybody gets it except for what's her name's character. And he's like, if we're going to call this Project Elrond, I demand that my code name be Glorfindel. And she's like, what? And then they have to explain it to her, and it ceases to be funny. It's awesome. I love Gladiator. I think Gladiator is a historically ludicrous, but fabulously entertaining and very well-made movie. And I hope that Gladiator 2, which sounds like not a great idea, will not be terrible. But just to remind us, Ridley Scott has and probably will again make good movies. But Napoleon sucked. It was bad. So, I'm not. I have not read any reviews or watched any reviews. I've only watched some TikToks or something like that about people who saw it and thought it was at least fun. Not that I'm aware of. That doesn't mean no. But Kristen Wiig, yep, there you go. Donald Glover, yeah, Donald Glover is pretty awesome in kind of everything, to be honest. He is the thing that although I think the writing lets him down, he's the thing that really sells the Han Solo prequel movie. I think he's terrific as young Lando Calrissian. I thought. I did not watch the maybe. I mean, maybe this is true. It is ambitious, but others have managed to make a not shitty movie about Napoleon, and including Ridley. Well, admittedly, Napoleon does not show up in The Duelists. You are making a very wise decision here, Mo, in not seeing Napoleon. It is not worth your time. I am very interested in the period, and it was not worth my time. So if you are not interested in the period, then you are just going to sit through a really shitty movie. Again, we did a whole show on this with Jim Wozarski. And the problem is not that it's not accurate. The problem is it's a shitty movie. There are things that are good about it. The costumes are excellent. The cinematography is generally really good. Ridley Scott is really good at that. The movie is stupidly written. It is a stupid movie. And I think that is the unforgivable sin, I think. I got more entertainment and did not fall asleep during Battlefield Earth, which I also saw in the theater. And that's a bad movie. That is a bad movie. And yet I found it uproariously funny. This is so ridiculous it is entertaining. I can get behind that. 2012 was like that too, where they're flying the little prop plane through the tumbling skyscrapers. I'm like, what is this bullshit? This is bullshit. So, I mean, I think we all had a hunch. So I think this is a really interesting piece of casting, and one that I am basically completely behind. In the ancient world, the idea, I mean, they might have used a term that was analogous to race, but ancient Rome was incredibly cosmopolitan. Remember that there were early on there were African emperors, earlier on than either of these movies. So there was a huge mix of different cultures and ethnicities and religions and all that stuff in the city of Rome itself. So I feel like having Denzel Washington there is actually kind of a cool way to represent that. And he's a great actor, so, you know, I don't think anybody's going to complain about the performance, probably. I've never seen a bad Denzel Washington performance personally. So, yes, this is exactly it. It was hilarious. But you know, I think this is a guilty pleasure, but I also enjoyed Battlefield Earth, the book. It's really probably much longer than it ought to be. But if you think of it as a trilogy in one book or quadrilogy in one book, you'd be approximately correct. I think it's a fun book. I think that there is some L. Ron Hubbard hobby horses in there. But they were noticeable, but did not really get in the way of what I felt was a fairly entertaining story overall. The bad news is that every copy of Battlefield, I've owned 2 copies of it. Both of those copies have disintegrated. Now, I haven't read it 30 times or anything like that. I've got a copy of the Silmarillion that I have read 30 times probably. And it's fine. So the bindings on those were very poor. So let's hope not. He was great in the remake of The Magnificent Seven, which was overall just okay. But I found Chris Pratt. I was going to say I found Chris Pratt to be a bit of an obnoxious tool in that film, but I believe if it says in the script, so and so, he is an obnoxious tool, Chris Pratt is the first person on the phone from the casting director. I thought Denzel Washington was really good in it. I really liked a couple of the other characters as well. And I love the original movie. It's a great movie. No. That's something else. That's something different. That's trash. I read the first 2 or 3 of those for some reason back in the day because I had liked Battlefield Earth. And Mission Earth is and Mike's talking about it too. That is Mission Earth. That is not worth anybody's time. It is trash. I am working on this 7-point book rating scale where 7 is like a transcendent work of brilliance, and 1 is a waste of either trees or electrons. And And while I think Battlefield Earth would get a 5 or something like that, Mission Earth gets a dead one. So, yes, correct. This is absolutely correct. But in fairness, this was not a secret, right? They actually say in the opening credits of The Magnificent Seven, story by Akira Kurosawa. So, and Seven Samurai is a brilliant film. I didn't watch Little Wars TV talking about Napoleon because we did it ourselves, and by the time we finished doing that, I was done talking about it. So I've heard mixed things about Book of Eli. So Kurosawa is, of course, one of the great directors of all time. So really anything by him is worth watching. Things like Magnificent Seven, Rashomon, and Ron are the 3 that I've seen. I have not seen The Hidden Fortress. Ron is amazing. But Ron is basically King Lear, right? So I didn't hate Fallen. I didn't think it was that bad. Fortunately, Book of Eli is not the one where Tom Petty shows up. So inexplicably. I've heard that the book The Postman by David Brin is good, but the movie wasn't great. It wasn't as bad as people said it was. Neither was Waterworld, but it was not great. And then randomly Tom Petty shows up as Tom Petty. So, well, I mean, are there bad Gary Oldman performances? I haven't seen them, if there are. So Fallen's pretty depressing, to be honest. I could see, I like David Brin. I like a lot of what David Brin has done. I tend to think he's stronger at shorter lengths than at novels. And I say that because of the Brightness Reef trilogy, where it didn't seem to go anywhere. There's some like really cool world building and cool things are going on, and just where's the satisfaction here? He's just dragging it out, and he's never written another word in that setting as far as I'm aware. So everybody loves Gary Oldman. One of these days I need to watch the Darkest Hour, where he plays Churchill. So, all right, folks, we are just about out of time. So we've got a somewhat meandering show. And frankly, the SDHistCon stuff took even longer than I thought it was going to take. So maybe we'll revisit the wargaming investment topic at a later time. But in the meantime, I feel like we've succeeded in our mission here tonight. Despite the crashes, we'll be on tomorrow with Dan for a return to the chit show. I'm not sure who we'll have. Maybe nobody. We'll see. If it's not, I'll just yell at Dan for an hour, and everyone will be entertained. Otherwise, we will be back next week with show number 199, and that puts, let me check this, that puts show number 200 on December 2nd. So bear in mind, everybody, that we'll have some giveaways on that show. So everybody have a great rest of the night, and we will see you all again soon.